Hello, my name is Tom Gorup, and I'll be going over why you should not be using WEP to secure your home wireless network. Start off with a little slight disclaimer. I will be doing a bit of hacking, per se, throughout this podcast. The access point or router that I will be compromising is my own, and it's strictly for testing purposes. There's no even internet access on this router. I would suggest, and I don't want you to take anything you learn from this podcast and use it for evil purposes. The whole purpose of this podcast is to open your eyes and let you know of the vulnerabilities out there and how you're kind of putting yourself out there when you use WEP as your wireless encryption type. Overall, the goal is to give you a bit of a scare. All right, first off, what is WEP? WEP stands for Wired Equivalent Protection, but that's not quite the case. I believe it was in 2002 that it was around 2002 that it was compromised. There are three types of encryption throughout WEP. There's 64, 128, and 256-bit. There's also WEP Plus and a few other proprietary ones, but let's just talk about the 64 and 128 because those are the most common. And that 256 was kind of proprietary. It was only supported by a few different routers. I don't believe it's supported anymore. And it has to be supported on both your the computer accessing the wireless network and the access point itself. And all it really does now is slows your system down, your connection speed between the access point and your computer. Whether it's 64-bit or 256, it's still going to get cracked. It doesn't matter. Only difference is time. So if you have to use WEP because your legacy system doesn't support WPA or WPA2, go ahead and just use a 64-bit. So that way you get a decent speed because it's going to get cracked either way. And I would also suggest using a complete separate network for that system, and don't keep any sensitive files on it. WEP, or a wireless network pretty much in general, uses a four-step challenge and response handshake. Leads off with the computer sending your access point a authentication request, pretty much asking, hey, can I connect? Access point then responds with a clear text challenge. The computer encrypts that challenge and sends it back to the access point. Access point decrypts the message, and then voila, you got a connection. Yes, it's a little more complicated than that, but that's. I'm just staying within the scope of this podcast. Okay, why not WEP? Well, first off, the IV keys, or the initialization vector keys, it's too small of a bit area. I believe it's out of every 5,000 packets, there's a 50% chance that the IV key was used twice, and that's not a great. It's not a good idea. It just it's not large enough, especially if you got a few things on your wireless network. Now there's three different types of attacks per se, pretty much in general. There's a passive attack where the attacker is just eavesdropping. He's just collecting some packets, sniffing around, maybe catching passwords, possibly things of that nature. And then there's an active attack where he's actively manipulating your wireless traffic, and then there's a kind of a combination. He actually joins the network, and then he can start what's called a man-in-the-middle attack. I'll probably get into that a little later when I show you in a little later podcast when I show you what can happen when an attacker actually gets into your network. Now all this can be done in less than 5 minutes, pretty much on a 64-bit encryption. 128 might take 10 minutes max. I'm going to go through a little demonstration. The requirements here is just an AirCrack NG suite, a wireless access point. Mine's going to be set up with a 64-bit WEP security type and a timer. So we'll go ahead and jump right into this. Lead off here. We'll go ahead and see that I do have a wireless card, which is here, WLAN 0. Now I'm going to put it into monitor mode. Alright, now it's monitor mode. We're going to go ahead and monitor. So, There we go. All right, you see it's catching all the places out there. We're going to focus on mine right here. That's my wireless access point test lab. See, it's WEP on channel 11. And this is its MAC address, or BSSID. We'll go ahead and copy that because we're going to need it. And we'll go ahead and focus on that specific access point. So that way we're not catching anything else out there. We don't really need anything else out there. Just need to monitor this one. And see where WEP test lab in a data area here. This is what will be important here in a minute, and in the BSSID. All right, we'll do a little authentication. Try to get the router to talk to us. All right, we're associated. Too easy. Now, I'm not going into what all this means because it really doesn't matter. It's not the scope of this podcast. If you want to know what it means, there are other ways. There are plenty of places out there that'll explain to you what all this means. It's reading the packets that are being intercepted and trying to create something to send back. All right. We're not going to use this one. We'll use this one. It doesn't really matter. All right. Now we're going to run aircrack. Now with that last piece, I'll show you what we did here in a second. Oh, yep. If I can spell. Aircrack. All right. Now it's going through the cracking process. It says we have 2,100 IVs packets, and that's right here. A little data here. By doing this bad boy over here, the AirPlay is forcing these packets. Now, if there's another user or a couple other users connected, I probably wouldn't have to do this. I could probably just collect the packets off to the side, as is. But we'll go ahead and force it out of them, so that way make things move along a little faster. It's just that easy. Excuse me. Now while it's going through its deal, you might think that, well, a person can only do this right side of my house, or just a little bit down the block, and I could probably see them if I suspect anything. Well, that's not the case. They have what are called Wi-Fi rifles, where it's literally using a rifle barrel and sticking a antenna wire into it and then shooting it directly at the access point. You could also use the Pringle cam, same concept. It's basically just honing in that wireless signal. So to think that they have to be right down the block or within eyesight, it's not the case. Well, there you go. Look at that, already decrypted. Faster than I expected. About 3 minutes, probably just over 3 minutes. You'll probably be able to see better than I can, looking at the timer on your computer. All right, we would take this key and just punch it in our computer, and then access the wireless access point. It's that simple, that easy. All right, in the end, I hope you won't be using WPA or WEP anymore. Stick to WPA 2. TKIP or CCMP encryption type, it doesn't really matter. It just primarily depends on your specific machine, what it'll support, if it'll support TKIP or CCMP. My next podcast, I will be going over WPA2 more in depth and reinforcing my first podcast on passwords and why you should be using a strong password, especially with your home routing. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, I would greatly appreciate them. I can always use the critiques. Hit me up at tom.g738@gmail.com. You can find me on Google Plus or check out my site at securitytom.squarespace.com. Until next time, safe browsing.